Special board meeting on December 18th, 2018 to order, time being 6:34 on Tuesday, December 18th. If everybody could rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Deisha, would you take the roll?
Supervisor Moraz?
Here.
Trustee Jones? Here. Trustee McCansey? Here. Trustee Carabola? Here. Trustee Sweeney? Here. Clerk Jalamas, not here. Assessor Monacar? Highway Commissioner Kazmierczak?
Here. Okay. First order of business is public participation. Do I have any call for, and now if you could indicate Trustee Carabola.
Trustee Carabola? Here.
All right. For public participation, Mr. Egan, step on it.
Almost late.
Thank you. I believe most of the board know me. I'm Joe Egan from Park Ridge. Some of the audience may not know me. For those that may watch the tape later, in the past 5.5 years, I've also been the Park Ridge Library Board, so I come with some familiarity with taxing bodies and levies. But I'm here to talk tonight about the fact that we all know that Maine Township, over the last few years, has accumulated excess funds in all three of their funds. And they've done that via overtaxation, in my opinion. Currently, the General Assistance Fund and the Town Fund combined have an aggregate excess amount in their funds of approximately $9.2 million. And that amount is growing based on what I've seen, what they've levied for this year and what they're going to spend this year. That $9.2 million is going to grow. On a combined fund basis for those two funds, the General Assistance and Town Fund, that's approximately 2 times what will be spent this year. When you break it down for just the General Assistance Fund, that fund has an excess balance of $2.4 million. Those are excess funds above and beyond what will be spent. Based on what the General Assistance Fund has spent on average for the last 3 years, that's about 2.8 times the average spend in a year. 2.8 times of excess funds that they have in their kitty right now. And this board is well aware of the fact that by Illinois statute, the taxing body is not to have more than 2.5 times the excess of unnecessary funds in their balance. Otherwise, they're ripe for a lawsuit. It's illegal to have that amount of money in excess funds in your fund balance. And as I'm sure this board is aware, as most boards are, there have been taxing bodies that have been sued in the last few years for this exact problem. And in fact, the most recent ones that I found was the Algonquin Township in late 2007 was sued and lost because they had excess funds in a number of their funds that they levied for. If we add in the third fund, which is the Roads and Bridges Fund, into the other two, the accumulated balance is over $11 million of unspent funds. In my opinion, this is overtaxation and irresponsible government. These are monies that are not needed, haven't been used, and are unnecessary. That's why they're sitting here. In addition to being overtaxation, I believe it's irresponsible government to put yourselves in a situation where you could be sued very soon for this exact same problem. So, in my opinion, and I believe many of you share this board has a fiduciary responsibility to its residents and taxpayers to address this problem, not down the road, but now, today, as it relates to the upcoming levy. And I'm not here to say that you need to cut services. That's not what I'm advocating here today. I'm here to say that this unnecessary accumulation of funds is overtaxation, and not only needs to stop, but needs to be addressed as soon as possible. And I believe it needs to be addressed with a steep, steep cut in the upcoming levy. I read the board's packet for tonight, and there's a number of levy proposals in there, a whole host of them. Some of the proposals are clear, they don't even begin to address this problem. One of the proposals is a flat levy from last year. I think a couple of proposals are actually an increase from the levy from last year. So not only do they want more money in some of these proposals, it's going to grow this excess fund and put them in a worse situation as it relates to the statute law. I think from a citizen's point of view, a taxpayer's point of view, it's a continuation of the overtaxation that they've done of us to take funds from us to put into a kitty. For what reason? There is no reason. So I think this needs to be addressed. And I don't believe that the taxpayers are not asking or inviting this board to find ways, to invent ways to spend this excess fund. That's not what the taxpayers are asking for. That's not what they're seeking. And so if the proposed spend down of this is to somehow find ways to spend it, or find programs, or find services that don't exist, I have no taxpayers asking for that. What we're asking for the services that are provided, levy the appropriate amount, and stop this overaccumulation of funds. I think what's in the board
I'm
package...
sorry, Mr. Eagle,
Pardon me?
can you wrap it up? The timer went off.
Okay, yeah, I'm almost finished.
Thanks.
So my suggestion is to not only have deep cuts, I think deeper cuts than are proposed in the package. I think there's one that's a 30% on the GA and 10 on the other. I don't think that gets you there. I don't think it gets you close. My proposal is we need to cut those funds in half. And if you want to do it through levy, you have to do levy cuts. There's no way around that. And if you want to do some type of abatement, that if you do that, it has to be coupled with levy cuts. And that abatement has to go back to taxpayers, not to some other service or some other fund or some other obligation you think you may have. And then lastly, the Road and Bridge Fund levy, proposed levy at $2.6 million, I find that unjustifiable. It's not supported. You haven't spent $2 million on average in the last 3 years, but you want $2.6 million more. So I challenge the commissioner that's proposing that to come forward to the taxpayers and tell us why and how you think you need to add to your fund balance that you currently have at an extreme amount more than what you're going to spend. And I don't think that's been done yet, and I think the taxpayers deserve a better reconciliation.
Thank
And
you.
I'm not to go to the library board because I'm on the board there, we have a meeting tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Eagle.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Donna.
My name is Donna Adam, and I'm from Des Plaines. I also wanted to echo what Mr. Egan said about the excess accumulation that we have in the funds. And actually, the statute calling for 2.5 times, there had to be a statute put in place because these governing bodies were actually taking too much of their tax dollars. And so that they said that, and they said you can't go over it. It doesn't even mean that we should even get close to that number, because then you're out of compliance with the law, which we don't want to be. But that doesn't mean that you can't have a much lower number, like a year's worth of spending, which I think would be more reasonable. But tonight I want to ask our trustees to think about the income for Des Plaines, Illinois. According to datausa.gov, the average median income for Des Plaines is $64,582 for 2016. For Park Ridge, Illinois, that number is $92,474. So if you're looking at what people can afford, I talk to people in Des Plaines all the time, and their biggest concern is their real estate taxes. And if you look at, and probably because I'm talking to groups of people that have much lower income, and when we are looking at the levy, we need to be thinking about those people who are on the lower end of the income spectrum. Because if your average income, trustees, is more than $64,000, you need to think about the people that's their average in this place. Many people are way below that. That's an average number. And people are really struggling with their tax, being able to pay their tax bills. And I would just like you to think about that as you look at the levy. I would also be for a large decrease in the levy, just as Joe Egan is, and finding a way to do an abatement to get the fund balances back down, because they did this was an accumulation and it happened over a number of years. So not only do you have to take some away, but you have to lower the number so that it doesn't creep back up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, so our first order of business is to vote on our copier printer vendor. We have been provided with revised proposals that are all in your board packet. So I'm not going to have each person do any kind of presentation, because we've already had the presentations and we, I think, have said almost everything that's needed to be said. Trustee Sweeney, I know that you had some questions last night. Did you want me to ask those specific questions?
No, because, clear.
Oh, all right, so. I am going to we have, just so we are all on the same page, Warehouse Direct, Image Tech, and DPO. And I am going to seek a motion to pick a vendor.
Motion to choose Warehouse Direct Business Products and Services in the contract that they presented to us.
Which one, the lowest, the 1342?
1342, yes.
Okay. Is there a second? I'm going to actually second that. And now it's open to discussion. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, can we call the roll?
Supervisor Perez?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie? No. Trustee Carabona?
No.
Trustee Sweeney? No.
All right, so we need a vendor. Does anybody else have a motion?
A motion to propose Splains Office Equipment as our vendor to continue on with the township.
Second.
Which proposal?
The latest one.
But which one? There's two.
Okay.
No, I mean, there's two within the list. There's two options.
It was,
There's option one and there's option
it's option, I believe it's option, mine shows what's option 2. Yeah, the option 2.
$13.76 a month.
So we're tracking the $13.76 a month, is that correct?
Yes.
With the $10 extra per month on the finishing, right? So that's,
1386 now.
So that's actually $13.86 a month, or without.
That's optional if we chose to have it. which
I'm asking what
yet to
you're
be decided.
what the motion, I'm asking the trustee for a vote.
It's 1376. And
Right.
you can't just add it 80, you can't just make it 86 if it's not needed.
But there was an extra, no.
No, that's what I'm asking me. So to be specific, are you asking to have that item? Because that'll be $2,800 now.
I'm looking for 1376.
Right. So you don't want the tripod?
No.
All right, so your motion is to adopt option 2, as is,
So
correct?
we just have clarification on something, since it's optional, it could be added. Or does it have to be upon installation?
How much was warehouses?
The $10
It was free.
optional tri-wood finisher.
Oh, this is for the Kia, this is for the Kia Soul, right?
Right.
Star Kia Soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can add the trifold.
If it was needed later.
You can add it later.
So you're picking one that's more expensive, with less features, with less options?
Can you please everybody's microphone?
But I just am asking, so they're
Absolutely.
picking a
Everybody.
more expensive vendor, and with that option, warehouse directs included the tri-fold finisher. And then with this option, it would be an additional $10 a month, which would be $13.86 a year, or a month. So you're picking a more, I just want to clear, you're picking a more expensive vendor?
I'm picking option 2, Displays Office Equipment Company, and that was the motion, that's the motion that's seconded.
But it's more
and the amount-
expensive.
and the
I'm sorry,
amount-
who seconded?
I
Susan
seconded.
seconded it.
So have me a motion and a second. It's now discussion. Trustee Jones? I'm sorry.
Okay, I apologize. So you're picking a more expensive vendor per month with less features, options available to us. Is that correct? That's correct, right? So you pick something as compared to $13.42 with a trifold finisher. You pick something that's $13.76 plus an additional $10 a month for the trifold finisher.
I'm selecting something in addition to that, and that is I watched 4 presentations, hours of time. I reviewed the alternatives. There's also value in maintaining a relationship that's worked very well with the township, in my opinion. We're aware of DPOE's qualifications. They've proven themselves, and there's a value that's added to that proposal where we look, yes, we look at dollars, they have to be efficient, but also, as the statute says, we look at responsible alternatives. And the term responsible is defined under the law, includes whether or not you have knowledge of qualifications that one of the proposers has that's somewhat unique or of value. And I think DPOE has proven itself to the township, and I've added that to the value process when I was making my determination.
But to be clear, you picked a more expensive vendor.
Not when you put into account what goes into considering what the actual cost should be to the township. You look at the dollars, but you also look at the quality of service pursuant to the statute. There's value to that quality of service. I don't see the need at this point to change vendors, especially with the adjustments the vendor has made, the good faith actions of this vendor, and also this vendor's extensions of time when it came to our debating these contracts, allowing further use of the machines. It's a one-on-one service. It's the kind of service, kind of individual service that I like to see. So at this point, I add to the dollar, the actual black and white dollar, I add that value. It's much like in the practice of law. You have attorneys that will work for you for less, but there are people that also add value to what they're paying because of the quality of the service you receive from that particular attorney and the experiences that you've had. We've had very good experiences with this professional vendor, And I don't see the purpose of changing it at this time, based on the expenses I've seen and the proposals I've seen.
I just also want to add and I have absolutely nothing against DPOE whatsoever, and I appreciate that you extended the lease. But, so we are all clear. Option 2, we are gonna own only the Sharp Interactive board at the end of the lease, correct? With the other one, we own all the equipment at the end of the lease, plus it's cheaper and has the additional features, is also a proven vendor that there is, as Dave says, a lot to be said for value. And it is a valuable thing, in my humble opinion, to have a continuity between managed tech services and the printer copiers.
Can the assessor make a comment, please?
Absolutely, recognizing Assessor Moynihan.
I'm here with the day-to-day operations with the township, and I would have to say that Office Warehouse, whenever we need any tech support, they're Johnny on the spot. They come here very quickly, they get our problems solved. I've really appreciated their relationship with the township, and I would say that you can ask every other department if anything has happened, anything has gone wrong. Office Warehouse, they are here and they support us. We get through any kind of situation, especially, you know, that I'm not an IT person. I'm sure that board members are not IT people, but if you're here for the day-to-day operation, you see what a phenomenal job that they do. So I have to top their horn a little bit, because from experience, I see the nature of their business, how they perform, how they contribute to the township, and make everything streamlined, work efficiently, take the extra mile, come here, be here. We don't have to wait. I love their performance, and I think if you can talk to anybody in any department, they would say that's the same thing I am saying. That's my comment. Thank you.
And just so I'm not crazy, Vic, we don't own all the equipment at the end, right?
On this new lease,
Right.
you can, I don't care. You're not gonna have the maintenance at the end, and that's the expensive part.
And the maintenance will stay the same.
Not at the end of the lease, no.
Right, but for the 29 months.
Right,
The maintenance will include,
unlimited.
right, okay.
So considering that amendment too, that, again, thank you, appreciate that. That there'll be ownership of the machines at the end of the week.
Sure.
Is there any further discussion?
I would also add that the 11 printers are a faster page per minute, 50 pages per minute. So there's a difference in value.
No. Is there any further discussion?
I guess the last point I would make is the comparison was to the 1347, not 1322. So just for the record to...
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, your quote, I think you said 1322.
No, 13.
Okay, well, it's 1347.
No, it's actually 1342. It's in the letter that was,
Well, this is the proposal I'm looking at. So.
So yeah, I think I can live with that extra $30 a month.
That's $40 if we try.
$40 a month, and we own the machines at the end as well. And of course, the difference with the speed.
We already bought it.
Alright, so, any other discussion? Alright, clerk, can you call the roll?
Oh, sure. Supervisor Perez?
No.
Trustee Jones?
No.
Trustee McFetrich?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
All right, moving right along. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming and throughout 4 meetings. Missing anniversaries, children's soccer games, much appreciated. All right, so. Now, I am going to ask for a motion to pass the tax levy ordinance, Maine Township ordinance number 2018-3, an ordinance levying taxes for all town purposes for Maine Township, Cook County, Illinois, for the tax year 2018. Be it ordained by the Board of Trustees of Maine Township, Cook County, Illinois, as follows. That the sum of $5,046,286 are hereby levied upon all property subject to taxation within the township as that property is assessed and equalized in order to meet and defray all the necessary expenses and liabilities of the township as required by statute or voted by the people in accordance with the law for such purposes as general town fund and general assistance fund, and this would be a 5% reduction for both GA and town fund. Can I have a motion?
Prior to a motion, I have a question.
No, I asked for the motion. No, I'm asking for a motion, Hank.
I have an agenda question, because I don't think we're following the agenda, because, or I should ask an attorney to comment. I had specifically requested on a motion and a vote for several different reductions, are greater than 5% and 30%. That was not put on the agenda, and there's nothing on the agenda that references for the Open Meetings Act that we're taking a vote. That it's referenced as just a tax levy ordinance, so does that
There's no requirement,
suffice?
yes, there's no requirement under the Open Meetings Act to have the word vote on the agenda.
Okay.
As long as it describes what might be voted upon, that's sufficient for the Open Meetings Act.
Okay, is it not to say action though, of some sort?
That's not required. The way that the PAC interprets it is if it's on an agenda, it's inferred that there's going to be action taken.
Okay, because it wasn't clear to me as a trustee that we were even taking action tonight based on what I saw on the agenda. And it was more disturbing that I had put forth an agenda item on November 30th to request a specific levy of a far greater reduction to be put on here, none of which is included, and several others. So
All of your
if the
levies
first
are
vote
in
cast
order.
is for a mere 5% reduction, I want,
I'm sorry, Susan, can we do the motion and then when we get to the discussion, you welcome.
I guess I'm just talking about the order of,
The actual agenda item is the levy. It's not 20 different levies. The actual agenda item is determining the levy.
you had
And it
mentioned
was
5%.
I'm sorry.
I thought you concluded by saying it was the 5% reduction.
That's what I'm seeking a motion for. And so the one on file is flat. At the last board meeting, it absolutely was specified when we called this special
Wait,
meeting.
excuse me, the one on file that you posted, you had an increase.
No, actually,
If you
go
look
on.
at the two that are on the board, that were posted on the website, you actually asked for an increase, and that's what you voted on,
We
and you
didn't-
lost on a 3-2 vote. So
That was just to place, okay, so,
That's the truth. That wasn't just a play, that was actually posted as a draft
right, I'm
levy
going down.
for taxpayers to see, which was an increase in the levy. After the comments that were just made
But we're
from
not doing
Joe
that.
Dean as well as Donna Adam,
Right, so-
I'm just appalled that my agenda item wasn't put on here, and that we actually asked for an increase, and now you're going to ask for that motion to be
You're
addressed
asking, you're
first.
appalled, I'm asking for a decrease?
You're asking for an increase, I'm
No,
sorry, a decrease of 5%.
I'm asking for a decrease. And I think it was explained ad nauseum at the last board meeting by Carrie Lynn, that any levy could be put, and all of your levies, every proposed levy was put on the website, every single one.
So my question to you, Laura, is that Why could not my levy of a deeper cut be put on the agenda item first and voted on?
But what, because we are voting on the levy. This is the
Correct.
motion
And so
I
we vote on
am
a
making.
5% levy reduction.
That is the motion I'm making, yes. That is the motion I'm
The
making.
question is, why aren't we starting at the higher end and going down?
Yes,
Why are we starting at the low end and going,
yes.
I'm sorry.
and also the amount that you're mentioning?
I'm sorry, I think I'm still talking.
I
and
haven't finished though.
No, I'm sorry. You're out of order. Right now, I'm making a motion and I'm asking for a second to that motion. And then there can be discussion. That's how it goes. Okay? Thanks.
That's the amount that you just said is what I want.
Okay. It's the one in, I read the amount, 5,046.
5 million.
I'm sorry, $5,046,286. And that equals for both funds a 5% reduction in GA and town fund. And so, do I have a second?
Second.
Now, we are open to discussion. We can discuss all other levies you want to, and everybody can make whatever comments they want to. Trustee Sweeney.
The first point I'd like to make, sort of just comments on the comments that Joe Egan had made and Donna Adam had made, that we have excess funds. We have a fund balance in surplus well beyond what we need in the levies, and it's accumulated for years. And in particular, we have over 2.5 times what the average annual expenditure is for the last 3 years, which means by law, and I'd already said this a couple of meetings ago, and I brought this up back in March as well, that we have to be careful of this, and to think we could, levy even only a reduction of 5% makes no sense to me whatsoever, because we have significantly more money in our levy than what we need. So I recommend that we have a much greater cut than that. If you look at what we spent in general assistance over the last 3 years per the audit statement, it was $874,000, $881,000, $853,000. Our total expenditures were $2,610,000. What we spent as an average per year was $870,000, and we were not to exceed, if you look at that, 2.5 times that amount, $2.175 million. We're now at a fund balance of $2.406 million, which means we've actually exceeded the amount allowable by law. You looked at other townships, I think he referenced Algonquin, and there was a lawsuit over this. You look at what's going on in our state, they're looking at cutting back township government and people, and we're gonna not take some serious action on this from a levy standpoint, which is not even a budget issue, it's a levy issue. So if we have all this excess funds, and we have $11,293,000 in all 3 funds, why wouldn't we spend some of that down? We're not even talking about, as Joe said tonight, he's not looking at cutting services, he's looking at, even if you kept all of the funds the same, we have enough money to have, if we cut the entire levy of general assistance fund of $870,000, we still have a 1.5 years worth of money left in our levy to have. So we have more than sufficient funds. So what we exceed compliance by was $231,000 based on what was previously put as a posted levy draft over this last meeting, which seemed just ludicrous to me, and we got voted down, and because, I don't know, it feels like it's going in one ear and out the other, that we have a problem here, and I think we have to address it, and it's been years of accumulation, and we have more than enough money. And I think when it comes to the town fund and the road and bridge fund, we have money.
I'm sorry, we're not doing road and bridge right now.
But we can
Okay, but the town fund is part of it.
Please,
And I,
stop it.
well, actually you interrupted him, so.
To call it to order. I'm trying to keep this
Okay,
order.
the town fund, it also has our average spend is about $4 million per year based on the last 3 years. And what we have in our fund balance is $6,840,000. So we're in compliance there within our town fund. And then with our road and bridge, fund expenditure, we have, our average per year spend is $1,951,000. And though I can't comment on that relative to this, motion on the floor now, I would just like to say separately that we've never spent over $2 million. We probably will be this year, but that's a fund that we're asking for $2.6 million in a levy. It just makes no sense to me. So, unless we had some specific reason why we had to build our accumulation in our levy, I mean, we're going to have I don't even know if we'll have a separate decision because, a discussion on this because of the way the levy works in the road fund. So I'm taking the opportunity to comment on that.
I'll make a statement
Yeah,
when it's on the agenda.
Obviously.
We're discussing it, and I'll answer questions and make a statement.
Okay. So,
I don't want to interrupt. Are you done? Okay. Trustee Gerber?
Warning and warning and warning and warning. I've been talking about this for a year now. I talked about the problems we have in the state. I talked about the financial standing of the state, all of which goes in one ear and out the other because we're a township, and how does that apply to us? We're one of 700 bodies of government that reaches into the pockets of the taxpayers every year here in Illinois. If each of those 700 bodies were responsible, you don't need a statute that tells you not to overaccumulate. Because those bodies of government were irresponsible, specifically township government bodies, not this one, they're irresponsible, a law had to be passed. That's not the starting point. The starting point is what is right and wrong. What we have here is wrong. And I've also been warning that pursuant to the statute, you cannot start out, when you're levying, you cannot levy for monies you don't need. So we start out with, we don't need the money. Road and Bridge is seeking money they do not need. Okay? GA and Town Fund, we're seeking money we do not need. Period. Forget the law. We don't need it. So it's wrong to do it to our neighbors, and it's wrong to do it to me, because I'm one of those taxpayers. The second thing, and it's not to cut, as Joe mentioned, it's not to cut programs. I have a suspicion that the programs are going to run quite well, just like I thought they would when we did the last very minor cut, where for every tax dollar that was paid last year, we gave back a nickel, okay, which was a 5% cut. That was
I'm sorry, what was that cut last year?
5%. Now this year, and now being much more familiar with the numbers, because there are members on this board that were new, including myself, weren't familiar with the numbers. The numbers come out to us when we get budget information much later than even the start of the fiscal year. Those numbers come out, they're way out of whack. It's totally irresponsible to be having so much savings when people are earning money and they have to go ahead and reach into their pocket to pay those real estate taxes. Someone who's self-employed, in order to pay $5,000 in real estate taxes a year, must generate a gross income of $25,000 to $30,000 a year. When it comes to taxes, overhead, self-employment tax, etc. Those things have to be kept in mind. Also, that money is taken out of the township economy and given to us, when maybe that money should be, if we don't need it, remain in the township general economy. But let's go to the law now. The law had to be passed because of a ridiculous township that did some terrible things when it came to accumulation of funds. And they stacked that money in various bank accounts, as we learned at the seminars we went to at Springfield. They stacked the money in several banks so that they would have FDIC coverage, and there's limits on that FDIC coverage of $250,000 a year, so they stacked them in about 12 or 14 banks, all this money. Their average need per year was $800,000. They had all this money accumulated. That's my money that should be in my pocket or your pocket or the other pocket, because and paying bills and expenses and earning interest, and as was commented at the last meeting, even invested. Now, well, they had to pass a law. Well, then I talked about the lawsuit. We talked about the lawsuit. Algonquin just lost on December 15th Algonquin Township was sued because of their 2014 levy. And they sued Road and Bridge. And they sued the other various funds for over levying back in 2014. On December 15th, Judge Thomas Meyer, NUIER, ruled against the Algonquin Township, and he's ordering refund. They have to pay attorney's fees, they have to pay costs, and of course there's the wonderful publicity that goes with that. And I'm passing down to this board, and I want to make it a record, a printout regarding the case that I'm referring to. This is where we're going to be. Just because it goes 2 to 3 or 3 to 2 or however it goes, and a levy gets passed in 2018, doesn't mean the story's over. It doesn't mean there's nothing that taxpayers can do or someone of interest can do. And we in the law, we have to keep that into account, that we don't cause our clients to do things that they're not supposed to do. If your budget has never gone over 1.9 million ever, and you're levying at 2.6 million, let's see what the explanation is. Okay? I don't think it's a good explanation. I think one of the reasons why I was actually elected was because of these types of situations. These are tough decisions to make. But this one's very clear to me. The levy cut, I said, was to be at least 20% for township and GA, and for road and bridge as well. And now looking at the numbers, that may not even be enough. It looks like general assistance has to be a minimum of 30% cut. And I'm going on the record, because if I lose in my position, I think it's hurtful to the township, the people of the township. I think it violates my fiduciary responsibility not to raise it. And I'm going on the record objecting to it. I'd love to say yes to this 5% cut. I'd love to be popular. I'd love everybody to like me, we all do. But I have a job as an auditor, and I have a responsibility as an attorney, and I have a love for my neighbors to say no, that this is not the right thing to do. 5% is clearly not enough, this isn't right. So I'm telling you my intention to vote no for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Carabona. Anybody? Trustee McKenzie.
So I'm one of those taxpayers too, and I don't want to pay excess real estate taxes either. But as a trustee and doing my research, I believe that it would be irresponsible for us as members of this board to drastically cut the tax levy this year without understanding and knowing all of the budget requests and needs. And also we have learned of a new tool, which is new to me anyway, the abatement. And we can use the abatement tool to fine tune what we need in the end. And I think that's more responsible. And the responsibility in my mind comes when, if we drastically reduce the tax levy, it is going to be very difficult then to level off to a point where we should be to meet the budgetary needs. And what I mean by that is, and I'm just going to use round numbers, if we cut drastically, say we cut it, GA is overfunded based on the surplus, and we say, you know what, we're not going to give GA any tax levy, zero. Now you're drastically reducing the tax levy. Come next year, our levy begins at a much lower number. And now, in order to get enough money to meet the real budget, we're going to have a tax, what is it called? A tax?
Truth in taxation.
Truth in taxation.
And go over 5%.
And I don't think that's responsible if we have a tool to use to avoid that. So that's why I had asked for the 5% across the board levy pro forma schedules.
That was a great explanation.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, I'm going to call the question. Clarification.
Trustee Supervisor Moraz?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabona?
No.
Trustee Sweeney?
No, and I would like to add that the excessive fund balance that we have allows for us to make a 30% at least reduction. And I believe that we are ripe for a lawsuit and in violation
this is what we do. Therefore, I'm casting my vote no.
Yes, trustee McKenzie.
I don't want a lawsuit either, I'm sure you know that. But I think that when we are gonna look at the 2.5 times rule, I don't know, Kurt, if you know this off the top of your head, but I think that it's based on both the town fund and GA together. Do you know if that's true?
Not off the top of my head,
I think that that is what you look at, so I'm hoping that that is going to avoid a lawsuit right now. But in the event that we do get sued, I think that we're going to have enough reason and defense on what we're doing here as a board. I mean, we've cut the levy once, we're cutting it again. So it's not like we're purposefully accumulating.
And we have a capital fund to now spend our reserves
Right.
that we didn't have.
Exactly.
So I think
And the
that
tax
we
rate.
will, I think that our situation is much different than
But
Algonquin.
that's our assurance, the capital, I'm sorry. You're not finished.
I do think that we are going to look much different than Algonquin looked, if you look at the actual facts of that case. So believe me, I don't want to put us in a litigation situation, and I do appreciate and respect that there is a law that we have to abide by, and I think that when we come to the budgeting, that we have to be very cognizant of the line items and the spend. And I think that with the 5% budget, we hope to be spending down the reserves as well.
All right. I'll plan it. I agree, and also the whole purpose is that we are spending down our reserves. I mean, that's what we want. And now we've cut 2 years in a row, so.
I know we don't have discussion per se, but I'd like to answer to that. If you look at what the judge found in the Algonquin case, he
Susan,
looked
I'm
at
sorry,
several
Algonquin
funds.
had a lot more problems.
But my point is, to Claire's point, he didn't look at combining funds of town fund and general assistance. He looked at them on their individual standalone budget, levies. So I think it could be subject to interpretation, but I think it's risk.
Okay.
Oh, if I can too, on that comment. I also did confer, or there was information obtained by those who participate in the legislative process, and it was my understanding from my discussion with them is that each account stands on its own. You can't combine accounts. In order to dodge the 2.5 accumulation rule, you can't do that. Each account stands on its own. And I put that on the record so that the board's aware of what I'm aware of, and that they are standalone.
Yeah, I have had some talk to the state rep that felt that that was the interpretation.
Yeah, this is cheating. Oh, right. Yeah, this is the other one. That was my problem. Did I say?
Yeah.
All right. Next item is Road District Tax Levy Ordinance 2018-RB3. I'm going to make a motion to pass ordinance levying taxes for all road purposes for the Maine Township Road District, Cook County, Illinois. Tax year 2018, collectible in 2019. The Highway Commissioner of the Maine Township Road District on December 18, 2018 is hereby determined and declare that the sum of $2,605,553 is hereby levied upon all property subject to taxation within the road district as that property is assessed and equalized in order to meet and defray all the necessary expenses and liabilities of the road district as required by statute or voted by the people in accordance with the law for such purposes as general road fund, permanent road fund, equipment and building fund, social security fund, insurance fund, and an Illinois municipal retirement fund for the year 2018. And then there are amounts we specified there. I do have to say something else on that other one. Is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second, this is now open to discussion. Highway Commissioner Kismer.
The 2.1 increase in the road district levy is based on our current consumer price index. It allows us to keep up with inflation and capture any new construction. Of the $2,046,000 fund balance for the last fiscal year, $484,000 of that fund balance is prior adjustments for net pension liability and compensated absences. Net pension liabilities do not pay current bills, cash reserves do. It's important to also note that our road district only receives on average
Could you repeat,
70%.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
You want me to start from the beginning?
Just the net pension, yeah.
I'll start from the beginning. The 2.1% increase in the road district levy is based on our current consumer price index. It allows us to keep up with inflation and capture any new construction. Of the $2,046,000 ending fund balance for the last fiscal year, $484,000 of that fund balance is prior adjustments for net pension liability and compensated absences. Net pension liabilities do not pay current bills, cash reserves do. It's important to note that of the road district's levies in the past, we only received an average of 70% of what we asked for. Reducing the levy to a negative number is a dangerous, uncharted move that would impact our ability to provide services to our constituents. Finally, on page 171 of the Township Officials of Illinois Laws and Duties Handbooks, revised edition 2017, code authored by our township attorney, Carolyn Krafthofer. The road district levy is first determined by the highway commissioner and then adopted by the township board, which may not amend the commissioner's levy request, and it has to be filed by the last Tuesday of December. So I don't think anything I've asked for is excessive. Until this prior adjustment, we were even in the ballpark about 2.5% times our annual combined 3 years expenditures. This is an adjustment from the prior accountant. It's added on almost $500,000 to this figure, and we can't spend it because it's pension liabilities. So in terms of cash reserves, we're in excellent shape, and we don't collect $2.6 million or $2.5 million. We collect about 1.9. So that's all I have to say.
And is there any other questions, discussion?
I would just say that
Trustee Carroll.
it's just another 600,000. That's what it is. To taxing bodies. It's just another $600,000. To pay that $600,000, about $3 million of income has to be generated. Taxes paid on that income, tax on the gas that goes into the gas tank that gets you to work to make that money, the cost of bringing your bag and your lunch, dry cleaning your suit, all that, all the expenses that people have in order to bring home a net amount of $600,000, and you're getting slapped for it. And I don't want to give it up. I'm extremely disappointed, especially since Walter's always been very good when, in my opinion, when it came to this issue. He was quite compromising on last year's levy. He listened to the people, he listened to the concerns that I raised, and I made it real clear that if he has a problem with money, he can always come back before the board, and we'd be here for him. Walter also, for the record, it's on the last meeting, he initially agreed to keep his levy level and not to increase it. And then, with the power that he's given, since he does not fall under the board, even with the new statute that was passed, that now road and bridge falls under the board, but only if you cover up to 15 miles. We cover 20 miles. That because it's outside the board's purview, Walter then decided at the same board meeting to go up that 600,000. It's extremely disappointing. I stand on my previous presentation of the points I raised, and I would ask Walter to reconsider that position.
I'd like to say something. I totally agree with trustee Carabona that Highway Commissioner Kazmerchik has been a very responsible steward of the taxpayers' money for years and years and years. In fact, many of the compliments that we get at many meetings, I believe in August, September, and October, were with respect to our road services. So, having that same fiscal competence that he had as a trustee, and, you know, with the aid of his trustee aides de camp, that being John Heyman, who is here with us tonight, and Bobby Brzezinski, who is in the hospital recovering from surgery, and we wish him the very best. So, my point is that I believe that we can trust him, that he is not going hog wild with the taxpayers' money, and what Walter was trying to explain is that you can ask for 2.1 or 4.9, whichever is less. The clerk will give you less. They're going to give you less. So, but the point is that he's not just taking 500,000 or 600,000. It's my money too.
It was never collected.
Exactly.
It was
I know. That's what I'm trying
I'm
to
only
get
getting
out.
1.9, I'm not getting.
I think that's a misunderstanding that perhaps is misunderstood. So I think that he, in all good faith last year, did what you begged him to do, which was to keep it flat. He could have exercised this last year. And I know that I trust the highway department because they've done an excellent job. And I think the concern that your trustees may have is more of a budgetary concern, which can all be addressed at the budget. But I don't think that all of a sudden Wally became a different person, that he's exercising his power because he's power hungry. I think there is, like that he changed his mind in the middle of the board meeting. So this is, unless something is so out of whack, want to look it up, Don, feel free, but unless something is so out of whack or untenable, it is directed on page 171 and recognized by the township code, as well as talked about by Carrie Lynn at the last board meeting. I believe Kurt would echo that the statute, the governing legislatures give the highway commissioner the authority to be the expert in his separate taxing body. And I think that, I don't think we have a choice, but even if we did have a choice, I would say that I'm choosing to put my faith in him, and that he does, this is for all the taxpayers, and that includes me. This is merely to levy. It does not raise your taxes. This is not, as Dave said, going to have 600,000 come out of Claire's pocket and Kim's pocket. He isn't getting 2.6 million dollars. It gives him the authority to get the money needed to operate. He's been so far, and I'm going to stop repeating myself, extraordinarily fiscally responsible, as recognized repeatedly by Trustee Garabo, meeting throughout meeting. So I think, that for those reasons, I made the motion and I'm in favor of it.
And I'm not looking for praise anyway, I just want adequate funds
You just want one.
to provide for the services. I mean, the budget is obviously, well, this is cut and dry. You have to pass a levy in order to even have any money for a budget. So, rightfully or wrongfully, the statute states that the highway commissioner has ultimate control over that amount. And, I certainly would appreciate a unanimous vote, but it really has to be done, because if this thing isn't passed by today, extreme action would have to be taken. Plus, we only have till next Wednesday, the day after Christmas, to file this. So, it's imperative that this get done today. And in addition to that, the statute backed me up. And I'm not going to go hog wild, and I'm not collecting 2.6 million. I've been averaging about 1.8 or 1.9 for ever since I've been on the board practically. It's been that amount. So you have to realize that, and this may hold true for other funds, pension liabilities don't really help when you're paying the bills. This has to be included by this new accountant stating that that's part of the reserves. Prior to that, it wasn't. If you take away that $484,000, this isn't even a discussion of 2.5 times your average expenditures for the last 3 years. So, this accounting thing made this in play, so to speak. But, it's not money you can spend. It's future commitments to people who will eventually retire.
Trustee Yancy.
I don't think that we're confusing, or I'm confusing budget with levy. I think the point is, when we have an excess fund, which is a reserve fund, which is money that is needed, that is available if needed, that's the point of that. And
That's in the budget.
there is $2 million. No, I'm talking about the reserve fund, the fund balance, what we have in Road and Bridge specifically, not the budget.
Okay.
So I'm not talking, just a second. So I'm not referring to the budget, I'm referring to just levy. So that if we did need it, it's available. So what we're doing is we're asking for the taxpayer to pay more money, even though we have this reserve fund that high. So the question is, it's about a year's worth of budget. For comparison, I think the Park District has like 4 months. So, arguably we could discuss how much of budget we should have in reserves, but what the amount should be. But I think, if I said budget, I didn't mean it, of the levy we should have. But the fact is that we have $2 million. As Walter said, he has the power to set the levy. So that means that we as trustees supposedly don't, but yet we're asked to vote. And what we're voting on says that we have to, that this road, as the property is assessed and equalized, is stated as such, this budget is in order to meet and defray all necessary expenses and liabilities of the road district. And I think the question is that, in my mind, if we have the money, do we need to levy so much more? Another $600,000 more than what we have spent? So, we're taking this from the taxpayers.
Okay, there's a couple of things. You forget, I've stated this 3 times already, $484,000 is not in hand. I can't touch it, I can't spend bills on it, I can't invest it, it doesn't. It's just future pension liabilities. And this is the first year that's been tacked
It
on
has never
to
been
our cash
counted
reserve.
correctly by our previous
The
accountant.
previous accountant did not account for pension liabilities.
Right.
So you have to, $484,000 is not money I can spend. And secondly, I've repeated myself, basically we collect 70%, you can have that 2.5 million last year, but we only collected about 70% of that. We didn't hide that money or steal it from anybody or make anybody's property. This is what we got, 1.9, even though the tax levy said that we like 2.5. And I've asked accountants, I've asked Bob, why is there such a disparity in this case? And nobody can give me an answer, but all I know is that 70% of what we ask for actually ends up in the highway coffers. So,
Trustee Carabana?
So after we take 484,000 out of your savings with road and bridge, what does that leave your savings amount at?
about 1.7, let's see. I'll just do some subtraction here.
It's about 1.7 million, correct?
I think it's time.
It's less than
So it's 2 million.
that.
1,562,000.
All right, so now you have 1,562,000 in savings is your argument,
Reserve.
and not the 2,046,000. So you have $1,000,005. You have a budget that you've never spent more than $1,009,000, and you're asking for 600,000 more.
600,000, I'm asking for 2.1% increase. I didn't get the full amount last year, I won't get the full amount this year.
Right, but that's gonna,
But it's not, and.
and the amount of the increase is how much?
Percentage-wise?
No, money-wise.
I don't have that, let's,
600,000.
About $600,000.
Well, that's what Dave told us.
I'm just saying that that's what because you're at 1.9, you never spent more than 1.9, you're
No.
asking for
spent a
2.6.
little over 2 million left, 2,000,080.
Yeah, but all the years except this last year, you've never spent more than 1.9.
Right,
This year you spent 2.
yeah.
You have $1,005,000 in savings.
And what's wrong with that? It's less
That's
than-
what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying, the numbers are what the numbers are, and yes, no matter who gets the money, no matter who gets what or what gets what part of what, the taxpayers are out an additional $600,000. Now, they're putting up, not out, they're putting up an additional $600,000.
Who's not going to get that?
Yeah,
That I don't see is necessary.
Claire wants to ask.
Trustee McKenzie.
So, Holly, is there anything that you see, in your needs that would require the extra $600,000?
I am really confused about asking, if you ask your landlord to give you an apartment for $1,000 a year, or you can only afford $800,000 or $800, I mean, there's a gap there. And there's a gap here. I'm asking for a larger amount, but I'm only collecting 70% of it. So my intention is, which I tried to do several months ago, is to have a road improvement fund where some of this it's the equivalent of a capital fund and a town fund, where, if I can show a need with various streets that can be done in addition to what I normally ask for road resurfacing programs, I'll do it. But, maybe it's
Well,
it's
that's
like-
what I was gonna say, that is, we have a permanent road fund, but we need to fund the actual,
Well, yeah.
mechanism
Right,
by
I
which
can
you would
establish
spend
one, but
your
if it wasn't
resources.
funded.
Right, so now we really can't spend this resource without the mechanism that we did of being the capital fund. So, and that's why I said, in response to Trustee Sweeney, it really is more of a budget issue.
My question
And we can
was-
abate, I'm sorry, I mean, bang.
My question was different, Wally. I think you didn't understand my question. So, but let me put it a different way. Is the only reason you're asking for the increase because it's available to you?
No, I wouldn't say that
Okay,
at all.
then why are you asking for
Okay.
it?
Let's say one of these negative ones were established instead of what I'm asking for. Let's say that it's something onerous like 20%. If I'm only getting 70% of what I'm asking for, I don't know what I'm going to get if there's a 20% decrease. And, you know, if there's a 20% decrease and I'm getting about 1.8 or 1.9 million in property tax revenue, it's going to be hard to compile a budget and do the things that are necessary, what people expect, if that is cut by 20%. And I don't know if it will, I don't know if it won't, but I'm not willing to find out.
Let me ask you something that might save a little
Yeah.
decision. So will you be open to the same process that, you know, we're talking about employing if indeed there is extra that doesn't get spent and then being the tax abatement process?
Sure.
What did you say? I couldn't hear.
I said that being the tax abatement mechanism. All right, so, you know, I don't mean to speak for you, but I think what he's trying to say is when you get only 70%, like cutting it to zero, that was the first time
Yeah.
that it was cut to zero last year. Because previous years it had been 3.99.
I mean, when you say cut to zero, you mean flat.
Yeah.
So you're not talking about flat, well, you're talking about.
No, but
20%
I'm not
cut.
finished the thought.
We gotta get the apples and oranges.
Right. So last year was the first year that ever occurred. And he learned, this is what that he only got 70% of that flat amount, which then becomes your new normal. And so for the same reasons, you know,
So let me ask clarification. So what you're saying is that based on this $2,605,553,000 levy, that you will only get 1,823,887.
All you can go is by previous year.
That's
we
70%.
can only say what he got last year.
Yeah.
That's up to the county, what they're gonna give you. As far as
See,
the tax.
I don't get the full vote by any stretch of the imagination.
Trustee McKenzie.
So do we know what you got, what the road and bridge levy from 2018 resulted in?
I thought you just said it.
Yeah, he did.
All right.
Wait, I got something here.
You said 70% of the zero of whatever your last year was. Don, do you have that?
Yeah.
In addition to what might be given to me. Okay, well, and this spreadsheet, through November, what we had received in the property taxes was $1,597,000, rounding it. And we may receive some, particularly in February, when people repay their property tax. So,
But that's what you received after the August installment?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
So-
was the levy? I mean, what was the amount, the dollar amount of the levy?
Last year's?
Yeah.
The last one.
Yeah, here it is. $2,551,000.
So that is what he's saying.
It won't be, it'll be a little better because there'll be some,
There'll be some
February will be
dribbling
a
in.
good month, but it won't be anywhere near $2.5 million.
The 1.5.
Excuse me, sir. The next line is what we actually got.
For everybody, this is John Heyman, who is Wally's, I don't mean to look bad, administrative
Last year, I can give
supervisor.
the definitive answers to how much property tax we received. $1,845,000. That's everything for the fiscal year. And we asked for 2.5.
Wow.
So that's a gap of a little over $700,000.
And that number comes straight from the last fiscal year, 2017.
From 2017's audit?
But the last,
Last fiscal year.
So I'm asking, for the 2018, what we just passed last year for 2018,
Yeah, I thought that's what he was talking about.
that's the same 2017 number?
That's,
I thought he was.
see, it's, the actual levy would be the same, because it was 2.551 million. So that remains the same.
But how much did?
But right now, at this point in time, we have 1,597,000 collected. There'll be one more good month in February. So last year, with an identical levy, we received 1,845,000. And it should be a comparable figure this year.
Any other discussion? All right. Hearing none, I'm going to ask just Clerk Nation to call the roll.
Supervisor Perez?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
I might have missed that it was a motion to pass this road
Yeah.
Yeah.
levy of
That's
$2,605,553.
Right. He only did one.
And we're asked to vote to adopt.
Correct. You don't have to agree with it, you're asked to adapt.
Okay, so to adopt, I say yes.
Wait, I'm sorry, we skipped.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought
That's
it
it. Oh, you
was-
said yes, I missed you, sorry, okay. Just ag.
Trustee Calhoun?
No.
Trustee Sweeney?
No, and I would say because it's more than adopting, because I'm signing my name to something that says that I agree that this is required in order to meet and defray all necessary expenses and liabilities. I don't think that to be true.
The actual language, so you're clear, is that the amount levied herein is necessary to be raised by taxation for road purposes for the Maine Township Road District. Now, that was determined by Highway Commissioner Walter Dispersion. William Claire's point was that the statute mandates adoption, does not mandate approval or agreement.
And the last part of your sentence is in order to meet and defray all necessary expenses.
Yeah.
So if
That
I'm
is what
asked to
all
vote, and I'm
believes is
given a choice
necessary.
to vote on whether I think it's all necessary, I don't think it is,
So-
which is why I'm voting no.
Yeah, that's one comment. You have a minimum of $1,500,000 in savings, when really you have $2 million. If you argue you have $1,500,000 in savings, you have a budget of $1,900,000, you don't need to hit the taxpayers for 2.6, no matter what the argument is. It's way over.
You agree to the abatement.
Yes, I think that you're gonna get it.
I also have a concern, though, is representing taxpayers of taxing with a future promise of maybe some of those taxes coming back to the taxpayer. The batting average for that is not all that high.
I would also like to, since we had a comment about abatements, Supervisor Rask, I would like to say that in reviewing the ordinance that we had for the abatement, my concern was I originally thought we could abate, and it would be a very different abatement. It would be a return on the taxpayer's money, or basically an amendment to a levy. But as I read this here, I'm going to read it because it says Maine Township has, whereas Maine Township has funds arising from other sources which may be lawfully used for the retirement of certain hereinafter listed debts and liabilities, and therefore desires by ordinance to direct the application of such funds to the payment of a particular debt or liability. And
She
so-
changed that language. About the retirement, I noticed the same, right? We don't have
Because it's,
that.
what it's saying is it's not returning it to the taxpayer.
Yeah, no,
It's
there's
only
an
providing an
alternate.
abatement if it goes to debt
I
and
understand,
liability.
we actually, the copy, that language is getting changed for anything that we adopt.
As an abatement?
Yeah, I've already pointed
Well, I
that out.
have not received, I don't think, have you
Well, we
received it?
aren't- it's
I don't think
not-
any
we're not-
trustees have received it.
We
It's
don't know
not on the
anything
website.
about what we're gonna be abating, so it's a little premature.
Well, it's not premature to have a discussion about it right now because that's all I have. So I'm glad to hear that we're changing it. But if we were to agree to bet on a
Well,
cover
there's
an
no
abatement,
reason to-
and the money only was abated if, in fact, we had debts and liabilities that needed to be paid, then we wouldn't
Apparently
really be
told me she
doing
would
it.
do different this
So-
language based on what we needed, because we don't have any debt.
That's great. This is the first that I'm hearing that.
Because it wasn't.
So that's why I'm raising it, because the way, what you provided to us that we received did not say
That was the
It
sample.
would not go back to
discussion
taxpayers, so,
only a month ago.
but it's very, I mean, it would be disingenuous to
I'm not
taxpayers.
conditioning,
if
I
we
want
did an
everyone to
abatement
know my
and
vote's
didn't-
not.
And only allowed for abatement if it were going to debts and liabilities, it would be returned, so.
I don't believe Carrie Lynn said that at the meeting. Did you get that impression, trustee McKenzie or trustee Jones?
The impression I got was, I asked also for the update, what is the abatement? And then we were referred to, was it yesterday, before you referred us back to.
Late last
this
night,
document.
I saw this at 1 o'clock
I'm
last
sorry,
night.
trustee Carabodi, you did
So
not ask
the
me.
point was you directed me back at 10 o'clock last night to read the abatement, to read what was
I
already
don't even
passed
understand the
out.
point.
Well, because.
You said
okay,
you were
Supervisor
missing
Grant,
something from
You're
your
telling me
plan.
that it got changed, which is wonderful.
No,
That's
it's
great.
not. Okay.
But what I'm saying
Can
is,
I
that-
finish? I'm
but
trying.
I'm not finished. If this is all I knew, I think, you know, we need to be clear on what an abatement really is. Will it go
I'm
back
not
to the-
clear. How can I tell you?
Okay.
Trustee, Carrie Lynn sat here and told you what I
Could we
am.
have, as long as we have an attorney with us now, could we have a legal opinion on whether we have flexibility to draft an abatement which would allow a return of funds that are in our reserve fund or in our excess funds?
I apologize, I'm not up to speed on the abatement issue, I'll have to check with Karen.
Okay, I think that's important that we get that information because then we
Of
know
course
what
it is.
we have an opportunity to do. Because as it stands now, this would mean nothing because we don't have the debts and liabilities other than some of the pension net liability funds that we talked about.
I can tell you, before our last board meeting where we discussed this, I did ask her that question. And she said that's just the standard language and she could adapt it for our needs. Because not every government body has debts or liabilities.
Okay, can I suggest that we have this for the next board meeting next Tuesday, Thursday?
I don't think you want.
That we would just see what an abatement
Oh, you want?
actually is? What we could, you know, how we could redraft this and what the, you know, what the option is to provide a refund of
You can have a
what's
discussion
in-
on it.
I mean, we can totally have a discussion. I don't know if Carrie Lynn will be able to draft anything by next Thursday.
Well, maybe a discussion about what's allowable, because I think it would be wonderful to consider,
we could
we have
totally
11
have a
million in
discussion on
reserve,
that. We have
why
a-
don't we, you know, abate that?
To the
Because
taxpayer.
to the taxpayer directly, because we talked about the challenge
I was
of
under the
rebate.
impression it abated the levy. That it's not the same as what you might be envisioning, which is rebates.
No, I actually, that's my impression too, because it's a one-time and a 1 year, and it abates the levy.
Right.
Which says we
Right.
still have that opportunity to do that, which would be wonderful. Because why not? If we have excess money, especially in GA, I don't know how we're gonna get around this, because we have excess
Okay.
money in GA. So I think we should look at an abatement and make sure that it's drafted differently
But
than
you
the
can't
ordinance.
abate until you actually get it. I mean, okay, I'm gonna let this for the experts. All right, does anybody have any other comments? So you want that added to the, I mean, we have a really full agenda, but we'll add it. We have agency funding, we're setting, just so you all know, we have agency funding, we're setting the schedule of meetings. We have the honor flight, we have, there's two other mandatory things. So, be prepared, it's gonna be a pretty long night, but that'll just go back, it was tabled anyways. So it would be back on the agenda anyways. When we discussed it, I thought I tabled it.
The abatement?
Yeah, I mean, it was only on there for discussion, it wasn't on there for vote. Maybe it didn't. I'll put it back on for discussion.
And talk to Carrie Lynn in advance.
Yeah, but I know she's in the middle of doing these election challenges, so I honestly, that I can't, and Christmas, so I can't promise. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Is there anybody against? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.